Hey, and welcome back. This video is going to be about how to prepare these engine mounts. That's upside down. These engine mounts, get them ready to mount the engine. So these engine mounts have slots, and we need to find out where to mount these on the firewall so that the engine will fit. And we're also going to have to drill holes in it to mount the engine. The engine I got is the OS46 AX2, and the holes in it, these holes here that are used, for mounting, the screws that came with the kit with the airplane won't fit these holes. They're just a little too big. They're 4mm, and those are just too big. So I'm going to be using an American English size 6-32 bolt. So the 6-32 bolt will fit nicely. They're 1 inch long, and you'll also need some washers and the locking nut, which I'll show you a bit later when I show you everything you need to do this step. So that means these M4 30mm long screws are not going to be used to mount the engine. However, what also comes with the airplane are these M4 25mm that are used to mount, to screw this mount into the firewall. Well, when I tested these, they barely get all the way through, and I am going to prefer to use the 30mm long ones so I can add a locking nut on the backside to make sure that that bolt doesn't come out. And so the M30s, the M4 30 screws will be used to screw the mount onto the firewall, which makes the M4 25 screws no longer needed. So they're going to go over here in the don't need pile. The other thing I prepared ahead of time was, if you look at the picture at the top right side of page 16 of the manual, you'll see that there's a critical distance between the front of the firewall and what's called the thrust washer of the engine. So that thrust washer is right here, okay, right there. It does not include this front washer. What you're measuring is from the back of the firewall to here, which is the back of the propeller. And that distance is important because that's the distance for the engine cowl for the propeller to stick out. So you need to make sure that that's 4 3/8 inches according to the picture right here. So to make that easy, what I've done is made a small piece of plywood. It's I don't know, 1/8 or 3/16, probably 3/16 plywood, I guess. That looks like, maybe it's 1/8, I don't know. But it's a small piece of plywood, and I've measured from the here 1/8 back, and I'm going to clamp this to behind the firewall, having this mark here at the firewall, and then when I go to mount the engine, I can make sure that the engine is not only parallel in the mount, but that the thrust washer is all the way out to here. So I made 2 of those so that you can make it real easy to measure. And so with that, I think I'm ready to get started. So I'll see you over at the airplane. Okay, I'm behind the camera again, and I'm going to show you everything you need to get these engine mounts installed on the airplane. So first off, we've got the engine, got the 2 mounts, got the 8 bolts. These 4 are the 632 by 1 inch, and these 4 here are the M4 by 30 millimeter, and they all have a nylon lock nut and washers. Now the 2 wrenches, one is a let's see if you can see that. That's a 7 millimeter. 7 millimeter is for the metric lock washer, and the other one is the here we go. There we go. 5/16, and the 5/16 is for the English American M6 lock washer. And the 632 bolt requires a through hole of the size of there it is. Alright, maybe you can see that, maybe you can't. 5/32, 5/32 of an inch. The flat blade screwdriver is still the best thing to screw these crazy little metric screws in. I've got the battery operated one in case I need it. I've got the you may have seen this before in the completion guide. This is the Great Plains dead center hole finder, and basically it's a pilot drill in a cone here, and you push this in with the spring, and you can find the center of the hole, and we're going to use that in the holes of the engine to find the center of the hole to get a very accurate placement of the screw on the arm of the mount. And as you can see, this big thing here is my Dremel Multi-Pro drill press stand, and on it I have a clamp for clamping things in place. In this case, I'm going to clamp the mount in place. This 632 bolt requires, I don't know if you can read that or not, there it is, a 7/64 hex driver. Okay, so there's a 7/64 hex driver, fits in there nicely. This is the ball end type on the Dubro. I also have a standard set here, and the standard set here has the 7/64 little L. And not all sets come with the 7/64s. Notice that that set is the small set. This set is the longer set, and that set does not come, goes from the 3/32 to 1/8 and skips the 7/64. So not all sets come with the 7/64. You have to sort of look for that. I've got my 2 pieces of wood that I showed you earlier for measuring the distance, which is 4 3/8 from the firewall to the thrush washer. Because the Dremel tool largest drill bit is 1/8, and I need 5/32, I need another 30 seconds, so the 1/8 drill bit will drill the initial hole vertically, and then I'll use this drill bit along with the hand battery operated drill to bring that out to the right size, and it'll still be straight because this will be drilling the pilot hole, and it'll keep it straight. And then I got a bunch of clamps over there to hold things in place while we screw it all together. Okay, so here I am at the front of the airplane, and the first thing I like to do is make sure that the blind nuts that are in the firewall are and the bolts themselves match up. There's no cross-threading. There's, everything is working okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my battery-powered screwdriver and my flat blade screwdriver, and I'm going to just start them. Okay. I like to start them by hand with the flat blade, and then screw them in with the battery. Just far enough for them to come out the other side, and take them out. So one down. That one's going in by hand without the screwdriver. So let's drive it in a little. Coming out the other side, drive it back out. Two down. So I want to keep those paired together so I know where they went. Let's try this one by hand. And you can probably guess I already did this once. That's why they're working so well. I wouldn't do anything without testing first. You probably know that by now. So that one goes in well, and guess what? The last one is too. I'm not even going to go in all the way. But you should always test, because sometimes, like on, I guess it was this one here, I found that the black paint that they had used, the black paint had got in there, and so I backed the screw in from the other way, get the black paint out, and it worked fine. So always make sure that the bolts are going to work. And the next step is to go ahead and mount these on. So what I'm going to do now is just sort of clamp it generally in place enough to line it up, and I'm not going to have to hold it. And I'll put a washer on the M30 bolt, and I'm going to start on the bottom just because I feel like it. Getting it started is the hardest part. This is where the limit of this goes here, because this part of the battery operated is a bit fat, so sometimes you just have to go with the manual approach. Okay, so I'm leaving this loose. Put the next one in, put a washer on, put the washers there so I don't forget them. And looks like in good spot. So we'll get that one going. Now, if it's, I can't turn that, so that probably means that the it's off a little. I'm gonna loosen this one a bit more. Back it out at least a good 1/4 inch. Okay, and also notice that I have the web on this thing is up and to the outside. And what's happening here is that just because of the bit of play, we need to get that started. Okay, I'll be right there. Okay, looking at how tight these are, what I'm going to have to do, there's a slot on the bottom and there's a slot on the top. And so what I'm going to do is slide this slot all the way in that direction. I'm going to slide this slot all the way in that direction. So they're in opposite directions, and I'm going to try to get this started. by hand if I can, and if I can't, I'll use the screwdriver, and it's just a matter of getting enough force on it. There we go. And alright, so it's threaded, it's not cross-threaded. Okay, in my testing, of course I always test before I do anything. In my testing I found that the best position for my engine, not necessarily for yours, but for my engine, is for the slot to be as far to the center as possible. So I'm going to start out with these with the slot to the center, and I'm going to do the same thing on the bottom. Now, I'm not tightening these very tight, but you want them tight enough so that the engine will not slide around. So they're just what I'll call finger tight. Okay. Next one is the same. Put the washer on. Put the web to the outside and up. Sight through. And I'm just going to use a little clamp to hold it in place. And start at the bottom. Okay, I'm only going to go in about halfway on this one. Take the clamp off and start the next one. So the top and bottom are about just halfway in. Gives you a bit more leeway in finding the hole and getting it going. Alright, I could start that one by hand. That's good. Alright, so I'm going to do both sides at the same time. And when it gets close to the end, and that's close enough, I'm going to slide it to the center, and I guess I'll tighten the bottom one first, and then we'll tighten the top one. Now you're going to have to hold it with your finger here and tighten that, and okay, that looks pretty good. Let me back this one out and slide it over a little more. There we go. Okay, finger tight, finger tight. Okay, so that's good and mounted, and this one here isn't all the way to the center, so just by sight I can tell that This one needs to move over a little bit. There we go. You want them to be vertical, and these holes, you got two holes here and here. Those two holes should be clear because that's where the push rod for the throttle goes through, and that also helps you see that they're centered and vertical and so forth. So those are in place, and we'll go on to the next step in the next clip. Okay, after mounting the engine mounts on the engine, I noticed a problem that needs to be fixed. You can see on the this is the right side of the aircraft here, that these bolts do stick out, and the one down there at the bottom is doesn't touch the tank. However, I'm going to stop the camera and switch to the other side. So on this side down here, this is the left side of the airplane. So on this side down here, the M30 bolt protrudes far enough to touch, doesn't puncture it, but it touches the tank. And you don't want that touching the tank because eventually vibration might wear a hole in it. So I have replaced the bottom bolt on the left side with the M25 bolt, and it's got plenty of clearance now in front of the tank. So when you install those, and if you use, like I did, the M30 bolts, make sure, I'm not sure why it worked that way. One missed and one didn't. But in any case, make sure that if you use the longer bolts like this, I wanted to because I wanted to use the lock nuts, make sure it doesn't protrude and touch the tank because you don't want that to leak. Thank you.